The Trump Vance transition team saying that some members or potential members of the incoming administration are facing serious threats.
The Democratic Party is 100% responsible for these threats. They need to come out and actually speak up. I'd like to hear from Kamala Harris. Why doesn't she come out and say, look, anyone out there who's trying to target a Republican, especially someone who is running for office, it is absolutely unacceptable. I guarantee you we will not hear a word from the vice president or the president on this.
You know, this is the reason why they need to be confirmed, is these nominees pose a threat to the cultural Marxist left. It poses a threat to those who want to commit terrorism against us. And this shows how much of a threat they actually are. And we're not just talking about like the firebrands like Tulsi Gabbard, Pete Hegseth, and Robert Kennedy, but people like Lee Zeldin who have been targeted. Somebody who is, mostly universally loved by the GOP and by the New York State when he almost beat Kathy Hochul in the governor's race there. So they view not only the ones they're deeming as radical, like Kennedy, Gabbard, and Hegseth, the ones they want to target the most, they are targeting even establishment picks and even those who are favored among even the most moderate Republicans. They're like people like Zeldin, like I just referred to. If they think Lee Zeldin is a threat, imagine what they think about Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, Robert Kennedy, the new NIH director, those Trump administration officials that he's going to have around him, people like Stephen Miller. Imagine what threat that they posed to the cultural left that has now targeted us through terror attacks. This just proves that it doesn't really matter who you are, if you are vocal, if you are just vocally MAGA, firebrand, fire-breathing conservatives, or you're just somebody who is willing to help out the administration. This just proves if you align with Donald Trump and you align with the GOP, they view you as an extremist right threat, a Republican threat to democracy. And when they are really the ones who are threatening democracy at this standpoint, they're the ones who are conducting terrorist attacks and evil actions against us. So we have to be willing to address that and call it what it is, which is domestic terrorism.
No, it clearly is an act of domestic terrorism. I certainly hope that it's investigated, prosecuted, and the people who did this are convicted immediately and given swift justice. Kenny, walk us through, though, and this, you're right, it does tie back to your article about why the GOP must confirm Trump's nominees. You mentioned Tulsi Gabbard, RFK, Jay Bhattacharya, a guy who actually went and signed the Great Barrington Declaration, is now who came out totally against Fauci. It was like Fauci's arch nemesis is now getting Fauci, the job of Fauci's boss would have been his boss, Francis Collins, as director of the NIH. So Kenny, talk to us about this situation where we're really getting in sort of the inverse of the government we had before.
Well, I think that's the entire purpose, and that's what the American people have demanded, is we are getting the inverse of the Biden administration and the Kamala Harris administration. These picks are a complete rejection of the deep state, a complete rejection of the establishment, and a complete rejection of prior administrations past. And that's why they need to be confirmed. Do you really think that the same people who are going to vote against Hegseth, Gabbard, or Kennedy would have really, had a conscience and said, hey, these Democratic picks that Biden had put up are not qualified, or they have had allegations against them in the past, the same way Republicans like Susan Collins and others are doing right now? Republicans finally need to be party line. We've got to step up and confirm our president's nominee because the American people have mandated it. This is not something where a popular vote has been lost, a narrow electoral victory, or what have you, where we can afford to say, hey, this person has false allegations, or this person has been on a no-fly list, or, Robert Kennedy has said crazy things on a podcast, whatever. They need to step up and actually confirm the mandate that has been proposed by the American people. These people is no time to be centrist. It is no time to be moderate. It is no time to be electorally viable. It is time to confirm President Trump's nominees for the administration that he has got a mandate by the American people for. There was not a popular vote loss. This was not an electoral slide by a narrow electoral margin. This was a mandate by the American people that carried the Senate over, that carried the House over, and gave Donald Trump back the White House. So if we really want to make an impact and reject the very administration that has imposed authoritarian threats to democracy and to the Republican Party, we need to confirm these nominations in large. There shouldn't be one deflection. There shouldn't be one defragment. We should be able to confirm these nominees easily. And I hope we see that from the Senate GOP, because we need to see that the mandate is proposed and confirmed.
It's a very simple proposition. The idea is the American people have chosen this. And yes, I'll certainly agree that these are unorthodox nominees. Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, Bobby Kennedy, Jay Bhattacharya, people who are former Democrats, people who aren't necessarily part of the system. But America chose people who were unconventional. America chose this unconventional team of outsiders, of a broad coalition of people from across the ideological spectrum, because they all shared one belief, that Washington is broken and that the Beltway bandits in there have been stealing dollars and stealing sucker from the taxpayers. Why is it that the richest counties in America are all situated around Washington, D.C.? Shouldn't that money exist out elsewhere in the country? Shouldn't that money that was taken from the people of the United States belong to the people of the United States? Understand, this goes back to what Michael Moore said all those years ago, that Donald Trump is a weapon that is being used by the people of this country, that they are lobbing directly into the heart of Washington, D.C. on purpose, like Russia and Putin firing a missile, politically speaking, into Washington, D.C. Kenny, that's what's really going on, isn't it?
100%. I mean, the blue collar and working class of this country are the ones that put Donald Trump back in office, and they're the same people who want to see the supplemented change that is going to happen from people like Kennedy, Gabbard, the new NIH director, and Pete Hegseth. They may be unconventional, but Donald Trump is an unconventional president. The MAGA movement is an unconventional political strategy and a political movement. That's what the American people want. They don't want establishment politics. They don't want politics that caters to the upper class. They don't want politics to contribute to the deep state. They have voted in change. They have voted in the inverse, as you said earlier, of the prior administration and the way politics have been done in Washington, D.C. for far too long. And they even want an inverse of what 2017 through 2021 was of Donald Trump. And Donald Trump knows that. He is selecting people that he is not beholden to. He is selecting those administration officials that are actually going to facilitate change instead of just keep the status quo. This is a rejection of the normalization of the deep state. They have been in control of Washington, D.C. The Uniparty has been in control of Washington, D.C. for far too long. And it's time to put back in power those who have been loyal to Donald Trump, those who promise to facilitate change, and that know what they're doing. And these people are qualified. Kennedy, Gabbard, Hegseth, and others are so qualified to be doing what they're doing. And any kind of curve or path off of that is simply a cave to put some of these people that are refusing to confirm these nominees back in office. For once, these people like Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, and others should be willing to put their necks on the line for the American people, because that is what they've been mandated to do. We won the popular vote, the Electoral College, and put the Senate and House majorities over the line and over the threshold. And they have to vote to confirm these nominees, or we're really not going to have the true change that America needs.